So, yeah, I came back from the wedding. I really love this head wrap style. See it like this. Okay, really nice. I really am enjoying this whole experience of going to weddings because not only is it makeup day, I don't know if you can see, but it also really inspires me to do that fun arts and crafts activity that I keep postponing to start designing my own wedding dress. Sounds like fun. And I think just the idea of curating the outfit and the experience and the colors is something that is fun for everyone, whether they're male or female. Even guys can make really awesome suits and robes and garments to wear. So why not? But this is a video that's a little late, but I wanted it done before March is over to just commemorate the fact it's March. It's like Women's Month. Let's see. We've this in the US for a while. This was Women's History Month. I don't know if that's changed with the whole Trump administration thing. International Women's Day is March 8th, and it seems the theme for 2025 this year is Accelerate Action, emphasizing the importance of taking swift and decisive steps to achieve gender equality. And this Women's Day, I'm going to add this to my Biblical Womanhood series. I just wanted to read Proverbs 31 with you guys. Just sit and do like a Bible reading session. And maybe a few thoughts here and there. I don't have my QT book from the Proverbs 31 series. It's in Eldoret. I'm in Nairobi for the wedding, which was today. But I think, I really wanted to read this with you guys in March. And there's another section too related to womanhood. Perhaps the prophet. We could read her story. There's a lot of really nice things in scripture that are tailored to speak towards women and speak of women, of great strength, of great character, of great virtue, of great power, of great influence that, people don't really talk about women in the Bible much. So today is a Proverbs 31 reading day. So let's hop right in. So Proverbs 31 is in the Old Testament, sorry. So if you split the Bible in half, you're going to end up in either Psalms or Proverbs. And yeah, so you just get there, and Proverbs 31 is the last psalm. What I remember seeing, and again, I need to finish reading the whole of Proverbs to speak of this, is that Proverbs seems to be majorly, for the most part, speaking towards a male audience. And then Proverbs 31 is concluding by speaking towards women. But it's still relevant to the man, because when you look at the poetic structure of Proverbs 31, it's a poem. It's what's it called, like a chiasm? I think that's the term, where the verses are kind of parallel. Then the central verse is kind of the pivot for the whole poem, and that pivot point happens to be the section that speaks of the husband of the woman, the Proverbs 31 woman. So this isn't to say that womanhood is subject, it's like less than the man, because if you have been watching my Biblical Womanhood series, we kind of covered that in the first couple episodes, that there is equality of the sexes, innately speaking, and delegation of tasks is a dance that's unique from couple to couple, because your marriage is a ministry in of itself, and it's a relationship. It is, in a way you could say, it is something that is in relationship with God. So what God dictates to one couple can be different from what he's requiring from another, because it's a ministry. The commander decides what y'all need to be doing. And because each individual is also uniquely called and uniquely tailored and uniquely made, you can't copy paste gender roles between couples. It's just not going to happen. Proverbs 31 is a beautiful image of what is accessible to the woman. And it's basically saying everything that is godly, and that, which is why when you say I want to be a Proverbs 31 woman, isn't saying that I need to be able to own all this real estate and I need to have a business and have a family that praises me and good feedback and like speaks well of me and I have good reputation and they like laud me. But it's to say these are aspirational things, and these are things that you could say that it's been written in that we have the right to access these things. And it's an open door for us. God decided this. It's so People saying women can't own property, women shouldn't be boss women in the business field, should just sit down. I'm listening to my dad. I'm listening to Abba. So you just, if you want a trad wife, go find one. If it's your fate, you will meet her. But if she's meant to be like the CEO at the top of Forbes list, sit down. But anyway, so Proverbs 31 is so inspiring, like for me as a woman. I need to be quiet so we can actually read it. But I just wanted to just preface it by saying this is a picture. It's like a metaphor of the ideal woman worthy and compatible to a king. The king. So it's like top G image of like what to shoot for as a woman, as a Christian. If you ever wondered why do people are like, I want to be a Proverbs 31 woman, this is basically a caricature of the ideal high class, high quality woman, biblically speaking. So let's just read the poem, and you take note of whatever comes up for you and you have fun with this. Proverbs 31. The words of King Lemuel, an oracle that his mother taught him. What are you doing, my son? What are you doing, son of my womb? What are you doing, son of my vows? Do not give your strength to women, your ways to those who destroy kings. It is not for kings, O Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine or for rulers to take strong drink, lest they drink and forget what has been decreed and pervert the rights of all the afflicted. Give strong drink to one who is perishing, and wine to those in bitter distress. Let them drink and forget their poverty, and remember their misery no more. Open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all who are destitute. Open your mouth, judge righteously, defend the rights of the poor and needy. An excellent wife who can find, she is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not harm all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. She is like the ships of the merchant. She brings her food from afar. She rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and portions for her maidens. She considers a field and buys it with the fruits of her hands. She plants a vineyard. She dresses herself with strength and makes her arms strong. She perceives that her merchandise is profitable. Her lamp does not go out at night. She puts her hands to the distaff, and her hands hold the spindle. She opens her hand to the poor and reaches out her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of snow, for her household, for all her household are clothed in scarlet. She makes bed coverings for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the gates. When he sits among the elders of the land, she makes linen garments and sells them. She delivers sashes to the merchants. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. Praise the Holy Spirit. So my tablet's battery is low. There's so much in there, and we'll probably dissect this in another video, but this is, again, King Lemuel. Some people think it's Solomon, which would have meant that the woman saying this oracle of wisdom about leadership and the ideal wife to look for could be Bathsheba. I might just add a little thing if I'm wrong there, Solomon's mother. Either way, this is wisdom from a parent, from a woman parent to the son who is a leader, saying, bruh, be a good leader, be wise with your consumption. You're living such a lifestyle that you certain pleasures for you are a luxury. They're not a necessity. You know, there are people who need this. But you just, because I need you to execute well in whatever you're called to do. And on this task of you executing well in your life and responding to God's vocation and all, your wife is very important. You need to pick wisely. And it is not easy to find a woman of worth. She's more precious than jewels. Some verses may say rubies, pearls, precious things. Like, this stuff ain't easy to find. In the back of my mind, another thing I noticed when I was doing a deep dive on Proverbs 31 is this stuff takes time to form. And even after finding it, there's a refinement period. So singleness era, this is an era of refinement. That mindset, because I was really trying to get a good experience in the spirit of how to experience and see myself as a woman. And this, I love my singleness era. Because one, 100% devoted to God. I'm married to Jesus. You know. Two, this is my refinement period. It's not like I'm not doing anything. It's not like I don't have a man in my life. So, the idea that who I will be when I meet the man God has for me in my life, it's going to be such a high quality. I'll call her Big Sis. I shall be patient. I like what I'm becoming, you know. And then she talked then, so the first section, for verse 10, is just about that idea of rarity, a godly woman, like purified, inside and out, in the works. She's diligently showing up to the forge, you know? It ain't easy, so take your time. Verse 11 is really, I love how they're focusing on not just innate qualities in the woman, but how that shows up in the experiences of other people around her in their social life. So because of the innate qualities of a godly woman, her husband is at peace and trusts her wholeheartedly. The sanity of our men should also be taken into consideration. They deserve to feel safe and empowered and supported by their wives. Does your husband feel like you've got his back? That if need be, then he needs to take a break, you could be empress and carry the weight? Does he feel like you, when he's not in the room, you will cover his ass and you will speak well for him and you will fight for him? Like, I want to feel safe with my man. Men also want to feel safe with their women. The vulnerability of a man's heart is as much as it is for a woman. They have feelings too. I would even argue that because of the way society is, like, betrayal for them, honestly, I can't even, that's gonna sound so sexist, but my heart goes out for men who've been betrayed by women, because just the way I would for my sisters who have been betrayed. Like, everyone deserves to feel safe. This is your most intimate. You've become one in the spirit, which is as good as becoming one in this physical realm, right? So, a godly woman is a person whom her husband's heart trusts fully in her. There's no lack of gain. There's no sense of wanting that's going to be there in the relationship. I want this from my husband. Then verse 12 looks at, again, just expands that even more. You're only going to have goodwill, no ill intentions towards your husband. Then 13, 14, 15, 16 is 13 to 16 is really looking at the productivity of this woman of God. She is resourceful, she is diligent, she knows what she needs and she works at it willingly. She seeks what she needs and she works with it. That was about wool and flax. She's resourceful. The ships, the merchant, she gets her food from afar, which means it's bringing up this idea of effort. She puts in effort to get her ends, to meet her needs, right? Then again, there's diligence in 15. She rises while it's still yet night. She provides food for her household and portions for her maidens. And again, household is that idea that back then it wasn't just your nuclear family, it was also your employees. So this was a matriarch, basically. She was very mindful when it came to making ends meet and living life, and hey, wake up, gotta do my job or whatever. She's conscientious not only of herself but her social system. So she's living in a community mindset. That, because again, if these are because servants are like employees, you need to gain a buck to pay people who are working for you, whether it's a business or like in many cultures, like here in Africa, and I hear even in Asia, it's very common to have house helps that live in. You're paying them. Those are basically servants. It's still a thing for us. We have a house help here. It's very common here. In the West, it's very bougie to have a nanny. I'm like, no, it's very common over here. Those are considered people of our household, right? So a woman of God is conscious of her social system. and provides for them, right? So when she talks about livelihood, isn't just what she needs to feed herself, it's what her people need to feed themselves when she's seeking income in her life, whatever that income looks like, materially and monetarily speaking. So the communal mindset. And then 16 is focusing again on that industriousness. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruits of her hands, she plants a vineyard. So this is that idea of independence and interdependence even. She's going to be resourceful in finding out what she needs. She's skill set to make ends meet. So this woman, that idea of like, she has a skill set to survey a land and be like, this is good investment. She will invest in it. And with her own resources even, invest in it. With the works of her hands, she plants a vineyard. She has her own profits. She's going to put it into her business and plant that vineyard, So I love how in the beginning we're seeing a lot of like, we haven't talked about anything about like the man from the money from the man, or from her paternal or maternal bloodline. It's just bringing up that idea of like, this woman has some stuff and she's going to be resourceful with a skill set to be industrious, to build what she needs to build. So you can do that. And then 17, again, is talking now, 17, 18, 19, continues a little bit more. She dresses herself with strength and makes her arms strong. These are very practical images of beauty and adornment, because many people look at women as being very debased and shallow, but verse 17, which I would argue is like the first depiction of an adornment, has to do with virtues that are practical. And again, the productivity theme is still continuing. She's focusing on building strength. It's very results focused and like it needs like, where did I leave off? So these are very practical adornments, right? Strength. And this is also giving me that idea of like, she's gonna also adorn herself based on what she needs to achieve, right? She's gonna adorn herself in things that are gonna make her capable, is how I've read that. She dresses herself with strength and makes her arms strong. This is bringing up that idea of like, even her physical reality is going to be intentionally invested in to be able to complete what she needs to complete. As, what's his name? Michael Todd has said before, like, you're only going to go as far as your body takes you in your ministry. So you might as well take care of your body so that you can completely fulfill what God calls you to. Then verse 18 continues the productivity thing, and if her merchandise is profitable, it again highlights the diligence. Her lamp doesn't go out at night. There's a commitment to this, right? She put in 19, putting her hand to the distaff, hands on the spindle, that weaving idea, which really heavily ties into verse 13 about seeking wool in flasks. And then now it's moving to the social experience. She opens her hands to the poor, reaches out her hands to the needy. There's a spirit of generosity in a godly woman. And the generous spirit is a fruit of a godly person. You cannot say you're godly and that you're done growing and there's no fruit of generosity. I know it's not like one of the fruits of the spirit, but it's definitely an exhibition of having the Spirit of God in you, is living with your hands open, because you're living with the faith and the mindset of God providing for you, and also with the understanding that you don't own anything. You're a steward. So everything you have, if it's not meant to be just nurturing you, it's actually going to also end up being about nurturing other people. That's just the virtuous cycle. God has a thing for like the communal mindset, right? So everything I have at the end of the day isn't just to be meant to sit here. It's meant to grow and build and flow into something else. He just has that thing of, he just does that all the time. And that's really nice, because it means I'm living in a sense of motion in my life. And it's not to say it's work. It's how you breathe and you don't think about it that much. What else am I supposed to be doing? So it's that kind of mindset of generosity. It's like resources flow. Just the way the circle of life. Things need to flow. or at one point we will rot and die. That's just kind of how the human system was built to work at the beginning. When things move, there is life. When you try to hoard things, we all have seen this in history. Hashtag modern day even. When you don't move things through, someone dies somewhere. Now, so the spirit of generosity, and then 21 again, continuing that social thread again of how other people are experiencing her, and that external aspects of what you would see in the space of where a godly woman resides, is now she isn't afraid of the snow for her household because her household clothed in scarlet. The communal mindset. She's not worried about the well-being of her people because they're covered. They are covered. Things have been prepared. We are very aware of what we need. There's foresight. Y'all are covered. We're good. I'm good. We're chill. We don't have to worry about it. We don't need to stress about it. And then, again, focusing on her resourcefulness, she makes bed coverings for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. She takes care of herself. She dresses herself up with expensive things. She does appreciate and cherish herself. You can dress up. There's nothing wrong with that. Look at me. I am a princess of the Most High. El Elyon. My Abba up there, upstairs. The man upstairs. So, there's nothing wrong with adorning yourself. Appreciate yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. And some people need permission to, get expensive-ish, but spend wisely. But that idea, you have permission to enjoy the beauty that God gave you and to explore beauty. Just do it in a godly fashion. Then, now, the pivot verses, I believe this is the pivot verse. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. I believe that was the pivot point of just the poem about the woman, which is verse 10 and verse 31. So her husband is well renowned, is known in the gates. He has a good public reputation. When he sits among the elders of the land, he's a person in leadership. This is a caricature poem, FYI, but this is really important to note when I'm thinking about what I'm praying for and I would desire in a husband and what to keep an eye out for. This is a man of good reputation, and this is a man of influence. There is no way in the Christian mindset, worldview, to be godly and uninfluential. It doesn't math out. Because by virtue of being a child of God, the way you live your life just has default setting ripple effects in the social realm, wherever you go. Because the way you carry yourself, see people, see yourself, speak of people, speak over people, speak into people. The way you envision profits and losses and benefits and gains, the way you define generosity, the way you define providence, the way you believe in miracles, the way you participate in miracles, the way you become a miracle worker, the way your prayers are prophetic, the way people hear the way you speak into them, and they have this unshakable faith and trust with you. Maybe your history is trash, but the way you've changed, and the way you are, and the way you love Jesus, and the way you speak of him, and the way evidence keeps piling for the faith in your life, in your testimonies, in the things you witness, and the things these people now are opening their eyes to bear witness to because of you, it makes you a person of influence. My man's got to be influential. Now there's that influence of your life path, your testimony, right? Then there's also the influence of being in positions of influence and leadership and posts and roles in society. But yeah, so this is a husband of great influence, because remember, cities back then were in gates. So to have a position at the gates was to have you are part of the judicial ruling class of that city, right? To be involved in the city gates and to be sitting with the elders of the land, you are up there. So this woman was married to a man of great influence and potentially great wealth, which could explain the affordability of fine linen and purple. Do you know how expensive purple garments were? For a while in modern history, it was considered color exclusive to royalty because of how expensive it was to make that thing. And just the symbolic status of wealth. Even carmine red, I think for a while, was equal level. Ooh, dripping in gold, right? Drip. So like there's all that. So just picture that's the husband, right? Then it goes back to looking at the industriousness of the woman. She makes linen garments and sells them, delivers it to the merchant. This is industriousness. Her involvement in the public space as a woman in business. So she does that. And the fact she can even engage in merchandise work like this means I'm assuming her work was at least of decent quality, if not high quality, to be merchants selling and stuff like that. It's at least reasonable quality to even be sold at all. Strength and dignity are her clothing. Again, we're going back to the true definition of beauty, character. She's got strength, she's got capacity, she's got ability, and she's got dignity. So you can be capable, you can be skilled, and you can also be physically enabled to perform, but also she's got character. A dignified person is a person of good character, reliability, virtue. These two are non-negotiables. As a godly woman, not only do you need to practically build skills to execute in life, you also need to build character to sustain a godly life. And whatever blessings and favor God will bring upon you, because He will make it rain. Right? And she laughs at the time to come. There is this spirit of joy and hope and faith that comes in a godly woman. She is capable and she has character, but she also is submitted to God. She is fearless because of who she knows, which is God. And I'll prove the whole God thing towards the very end. You'll see it as we wrap this up. Then again, her social, she opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue, or faithful instruction, or like the Torah. This is a biblically inclined woman. She is well versed and studied. She speaks, these are practical knowledge that she's dropping on people. And her teaching, that what she would teach people is not only kind, but it's reliable instruction. It's faithful instruction. This is stuff that's godly and aligned. So what I hear when I read that is she's biblically sound. Like she has biblical knowledge. She can speak the words of God into your life and give you reliable, faithful instruction. And these teachings are kind. So it's bringing that spirit of like speaking into you with love, building you up in love, and all these kind of things. So, seeing the character of this godly woman, when she speaks, it's precious, it's valuable, it's wholesome, it's powerful, it's reliable instruction. We not like it, but it's sound wisdom, right? And it's kind, it's coming from a good place. She looks well to the ways of her household, again, the communal mindset, and does not eat the bread of idleness. There's that, again, hopefully you can hear that overlap. We're echoing back the initial parts of the story. Her children rise up and call her blessed. In the beginning, we talked about her husband's heart, trusting her, and now we're looking at the nuclear family as well. They call her happy, joyful, blessed, favored, and praise her. And then her husband does a little poem of like, my girl, many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. He praises her, he exalts her, he lauds her up. And we need to do that for our men too, and let them know they're doing great and be specific, which is great to hear specific feedback. And also it's good to do nice general things. And men, we like to hear praises. Everyone likes to be told they're doing well. It's not easy doing anything in any social role with any title. And being a husband and being a wife is a ministry. Not everyone is called to that. Celibacy is a legit calling for some people. And then it concludes by saying, charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. A woman who reveres God. Meaning you're more concerned about what He has to say than anybody else, including your husband. Because your husband also submitted to Him. So we should be on the same page. And Lord here is capitalized letters, so it's Yahweh. So a woman who reveres Yahweh is to be praised. This is a woman worthy of commendation. Because if you fear God, the rest of everything we've read in Proverbs 31 is going to happen. You're going to live a life of meaningful work, productivity, character building, and you're going to have a certain perspective of beauty and value and service and calling because it's subject to God. You're the parent. You will echo your parent. Like whoever parented you, you're going to see a lot of mirroring there. If God is your parent, He's parenting you, He's your father, He's your God, He's your leader, He's your master, He's your Lord, you're going to start echoing a lot of His traits because you're living in His way And Jesus called us to walk the way of Racham, the way of love, agape. You're going to start being very generous. The kind of wisdom and advice you're giving people is going to be the first few things coming up in your mind is going to be scripture. There's going to be a whole lot of testimonies happening there, giving people testimonies, advice, and witness what you've borne witness to. You're going to be very kind and loving and empathic to people because, bro, I'm not that great either. But God loves me, God is gracious, and because of what He's done for me, dang, I really want to do better. All the more to fight and struggle. Not to a meaningless end, but because it is worthy to be loved and to love. Who wouldn't want that? So charm is deceitful. That's not something to elevate. Strength of character and dignity and beauty is the true thing that is beautiful and charming in the eyes of the Lord. And beauty, like physical beauty, is vanity. It is heaven. It'll pass. It's like vapor. And if you just elevate this and laud it, which, bro, I look great. It's shallow, not because it's not meaningful and beautiful. And, it's an emotional experience, a social experience. But it's because it's transient. So it's not worth my agape. After experiencing the love of God and the beauty of God in eternity, whether you see a glimpse of it in yourself, in moments like this, or in other people, or in simple things like in nature, or someone's laughter, or when the light hits your partner, significant other just right, and you're like, dang, no camera can capture that, let my soul do it through my eyes. That's the beauty that lasts for eternity. And that's the beauty we're invited to, into eternity in Christ. And in the last days, when we're resurrected, to live a life eternal in the kingdom of God. That is the beauty to be pursuing. And it only exists in action, in being. It's not a static experience. So life is beautiful. Participate in life, and you will have beauty. I don't know if that makes sense. A lot of these things that people seek that are vain, they seek it in a static sense, to keep it, instead of realizing the fullness of it. Like for this example, beauty exists in motion and exists in a transformative sense, like a rose blooming, every scene, the smell and the aroma. There's a season for every unfurling of every petal. Life is like that. Now in eternity, there's no decay. So it's like an eternal blossoming of beauty, an experience of beauty into eternity, because the depth of beauty is eternal, because beauty is found in God, who is eternal. That makes me so happy, because I love beautiful things. So to know that in my God there's eternal beauty, and an eternal experience of beauty and brightness and brilliance and gorgeous, stupendous ingeniousness. I'm down. Jesus, I'm here. Sign me up, And then give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. I love this verse. Some translations butcher this. I'm reading ESV. Give her pay's worth. She put in the effort. Give her the pay, the work of her hands, the fruit of her hands. If she planted that tree, that fruit is hers to right. Then there's a generous spirit thing. So many people take credit away from women just because they're women. I'm like, sit down. Give her her credit's worth. Give her her dues. And let her works praise her in the gates. A godly woman is not going to be just praised for vain things. They're going to be praised for traits that are noble, integrous, commendable, virtuous, worthy of praise. What does it sound like? Philippians? Am I still reading Philippians 4? Think of these things. Meditate on these godly things. She's going to be praised not just because she's beautiful, but her beauty is more than just skin deep. That's the kind of compliment anyone would float from. Because you're not just complimenting me on what I wore today, which is great, because what you're really saying is I have great taste. You're complimenting me on things like my character. I went through hellfire to reach a place where I feel like I am experiencing a deeper spirit of patience. And you'll be praising me for what I've done. And that's evidence. Some people get praised for things that are like, oh, your family, or what you've inherited. And like, it's so, it's basically saying the woman doesn't bring anything. It's the things that she comes with that you would praise her for. It hollows the woman and it discredits her, and it's degrading. So a godly woman is going to be praised by the things that she's creating and her character and her strength. You guys see what I'm doing? Like, you're going to be praising things that would give, like, yo, this is Anne. And then Anne will be like, yeah, this is all God. And this beautiful narrative, this virtuous cycle all over again. So that's the Proverbs 31, and I love it. I love it. And I mean, that's just us running through it. That was like 35 minutes. I'm going to have to like break this up, just like strip this out. And if there's anything I missed here, when I'm back in LD, I'll just run through my notebook again with you guys, and it'll be like a Proverbs 31 notebook edition with my notes to just run through things, because some of these translations were eye-opening. It was really beautiful and poetic, and others were like, why did you write it like that? And as needed, we'll take a trip into Hebrew to see what the original text was actually saying. But yeah, so just to conclude, this is just reading Proverbs 31 to celebrate the woman, to call all godly women into this space of excitement, that this has been anointed upon us, that we have access to this, and that this is our right as children and daughters of the Most High, as princesses in the kingdom, that we are given whatever gifts we're given, and they are to be executed. Not just because we're women, but because we are. Like for me, I am Anne. I happen to be a woman as well. Let's go. If you want to be in the military, you're going to be a boss general. That's your ministry. You will be able to execute if it's your calling. God will enable you. He will equip you and qualify. He qualifies the call. If you are called to be a house mom, a housewife, I have seen every season. You go over Christmas, the house. Easter, the house. Like the effort, the house. It is a ministry. The systems, they run everything, even the finances. Like, people are different. So let people be, so that you can see their full brilliance and just fall in love with them all over again every single day. Not just as their spouse, but also as their family and their kin and their brethren in Christ. There's nothing more gorgeous than seeing a man or woman of God fully just iridescent, in their zone, and moving the kingdom forward in whatever they're doing, wherever they're called. It may seem like a small thing, but you are ministering to the people you're meant to be ministering to. And that's going to have a ripple effect that you can't see in your timeline right now. You can ask God to reveal it to you, and He can if He wishes to, and you'll see what the works you're doing in that little town, maybe that little school, in that little office. You may not even have realized you have already touched hundreds of people in your life. And you're not even 50. You're not even 80. Maybe you're not even 20 yet. So, yeah, it's a great celebration. I hope you guys feel intrigued. Do your own little study. Proverbs 31. And just a concluding remark to the men. Again, I think this is the only proverb focused on a female main character. I believe it was very intentional that this chiasm poem has the verse about the husband in verse 23 being the 23 being the pivot of the whole poem. As a woman, unfortunately, in the fallen realm, there is, even in the unfallen world, there was still a divine hierarchy, but we were equal level priests with the men. But in the fallen world, we are subject to our husbands when we're married. Like right now, I'm single, so I'm equal level priest with my male peers. When I get married, I am not only covered, spiritually protected by my husband, but I'm also subject to him. Now, that means if he does not support me, I'm going to be restricted. So it makes sense that verse 23 is a pivot, because he supported her and he enabled her. He was a catalyst for her to be able to actualize her full self. She ended up giving him great reputation and honor, and that went back tenfold onto her. So it's a virtuous cycle again. And I look forward to Jesus coming and just setting everything straight, because we'll go back to the original design in terms of the design hierarchy, where, I mean, when you look at Ephesians 5, it makes it very clear that the husband and wife are submitted to each other. So there is, the original design is actually like equal level priesthood, but because of the realm we're living in now, there's this weird limbo duality thing where we are subject to him as well. This is not going to be a problem if he's a godly man. Someone's got to be vanguard. This is a spiritual battlefield. And he's doing a lot of heavy lifting, whether he realizes it or not. And I'm really grateful to be protected. Now, that doesn't mean I just sit there looking pretty. Being the man's helper, the Ezer, means I'm his equal other counterpart. It doesn't mean I'm his maid, when you look at the Hebrew concept of it. So it's better to think of it more like the battlefield of him with the shield in front and everything, and I'm at the back supporting him, and we can switch roles as needed. You know, so I'm the equal level other counterpart, right? To complement, cover his blind spots. You know, it's very important what we're doing as women. It's indispensable what we do for our husbands. And because I'm just imagining, if he's my spiritual covering, he's getting blows from me before I realize it. I need to boost him, give him MP, charge up, and also bear my weights too. I need to carry my own cross, so I'm not helping nobody. So I am conscious, especially after this Proverbs 31, my husband has to be godly. That's a non-negotiable, because I can trust him with my life, and he can trust his to me. Because I cannot reach my full potential if my husband caps me. Proverbs 31 woman was able to because her husband supported her. I believe it was very intentional that the verse about the husband was the pivot of this poetic structure for Proverbs 31. She was able to be a Proverbs 31 woman because her husband supported her. I was also quite triggered to hear that. So if you're triggered, take a moment. Just take a moment. Take your time. And focus on where you feel unsafe. Because when I focused on Jesus and how I'm willingly submitted to him, and how Jesus is the blueprint for a godly man, it resolved a lot. But this process of reading Proverbs 31 also highlighted a lot of my worries as a woman and my fears. And I'm really glad I was able to process this in my singleness era, because it means I know my rights, and I know what I deserve as a woman of God, as a child of God, as a daughter of the Most High. And that's not a conversation we're having. It's in black and white. That filters out a lot of incompatible men, and they know, because I'm searching for a high quality man, for a Christian that's a godly man, a man of God, a Mog, as Ashley Hetherington puts it. Let me just put it this way. If you live out your values and virtues, you will automatically filter out things before even conversations start, because people know, oh no, she's a woman of God. She's not going to play. They're not even going to try with you. So the people who do approach you, there's a high chance that they're quality. Then now it's a matter of, if God wills it and you're compatible and you feel at peace with things, and take your time. So that's why I tell people, you just be authentic. It will draw in similar kinds of people. So, yeah. Think of Jesus. Just think of Jesus, because men know, godly men who are informed understand that they need Jesus as their model. No. I'm full, Mom. Good night, Mom. Bye, Mom. Okay. So they know that Jesus is their blueprint, and that's what we're looking for in a husband. The bar is set high. It's so high, because not only are men called to be leaders of their home, they're called to be priests of the home. You know what a priest does? They represent the people before God and God before the people. It's a huge task. And again, remember, we're one with our husband, so we're also being ministers in the home. We're priests as well. But there's an explicit, if there's only one CEO table name tag, the husband gets it. You get what I mean? We're still the CEO, we're kind of like the co-CEO, but we need someone on default, so to speak. Some people use the phrase of like, we need a tiebreaker. It's the husband. Like, it's a huge call, but you can delegate roles as needed, because skills and callings, right? So, like, just focus on Jesus and who he is. I say this to the men. Let the Spirit edify you. You will be marveled by how you change and grow as a person organically. This is not a brainwashing thing. And how just the grace of God is going to fill you with all the fruits and the traits that you need to not only first be a son of God, but so that you're able to be a godly man and a husband and a father. Potentially, that's your calling to your children. Just focus on being a son. Everything else will happen. And for women, just focus on being a daughter, and everything else will happen. Because as I phrase it in my mind, I'm married to Jesus. Even in my marriage, like my first marriage is to God. My first communion that matters most is Jesus. Just that, focusing on that loyalty and the traits in that relationship has been refining, because as he showed me this year, the same dynamic that he's trying to foster and sustain and is calling me to engage in and sustain is the same kind of dynamic he's expecting to see in my social life and in my marriage. So you don't waste time being single. You are growing, and the skills you're building now, you will need them in the next season, in the seasons to come, and the relationships you meet and the positions and callings you're going to have in your life. So kudos to women. Here's to being Proverbs 31. Being intentional with our time, being committed to our callings, caring, loving, and healing whatever needs to be healed, so that we can participate in being healers as well. Yeah, I wish you guys the best. This is a really long video. We're gonna really have to cut this up. We could just make this like a YouTube, because I wanted to put the vlog episodes in YouTube as well. Just put this up on YouTube. It's 48 minutes long. But yeah, this was nice. I hope you guys had fun. Thanks for joining this holy vlog episode. Proverbs 31 to celebrate March 2025. Happy Women's Month.